Welcome to the Beardy Beer Bros Hidden Gem Show, a series of videos where we push aside the most known and celebrated titles to focus on the often forgotten and underappreciated games that never got their time to shine. If that sounds like your cup of tea or pint of beer, then forget about your joysticks and prepare to blow in some cartridges, because today we are going to kick it old school and take a look at the 16-bit juggernaut that was the SNES.
The ultimate G-Force only in the next generation from Nintendo. Now you're playing with superpower.
This is Zordon calling the Power Rangers. Beware! Rita Repulsa and her evil henchmen are out to destroy all of you in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Super NES. Fight your way through 7 incredible levels of non-stop action. To win, you'll have to morph into a Power Ranger and overcome obstacles. Swim through underground waterways, crawl through dark caverns, even do battle as the mighty Megazord.
Let's kick it!
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers video game for your Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Look, don't roll your eyes at me. I'm a 90s baby, and Power Rangers was the shiz back then. And I'm gonna be real with you here, I mostly remember this game for the Blue Rangers crouch animation, because me and my cousin thought it kinda looked like old Billy was taking a dump every time he crouched down. Simpler times, eh? Simpler minds. Poop being funny aside, when I went back and gave this a go recently, I was shocked to find that it's honestly a solid side scrolling beat 'em up that's jam-packed with a ton of nostalgia and 90s flair. It may not be the deepest mechanically wise, but the gameplay is smooth, the music absolutely slaps, and it looks pretty damn good too. The game also offers up enough variations to the core gameplay to keep things from getting too stale, with the Megazord battles that turn the game into a 1v1 fighter, kinda in the vein of Street Fighter, being a standout. If Shredder's Revenge left you wanting more nostalgic beat 'em up action, well, look no further.
Here's your mission. Stop a mad dictator bent on destroying the world. Rescue civilians, eliminate key targets, and destroy General Akbub's bionuclear generator that he's using to create his endless mutant army. On your side is an awesome arsenal of the 21st century's most destructive weaponry. On their side is the nastiest mutated enemies and the baddest bosses you'll ever want to see. Prepare to face the massive resistance with Total Carnage from Malibu Games.
Total Carnage blasted onto the SNES in 1993, and largely down to these two things, is one of my favourite games to grace the system. Firstly, if like me, you love the over-the-top explosive steroid-fueled action movies of the 80s and 90s, well, this game is just one testosterone-flowing love letter to those films. I mean, just boot the thing up and you're greeted to this.
Total Carnage!
Secondly, it's the first game I ever completed with my old man. We laughed, we argued, we shouted, but most importantly, we caused total carnage. The game is a hyper-violent top-down multi-directional shooter where you must kill and blow up everything in your way. Seems simple enough, but it's the over-the-top and silly tongue-in-cheek nature of the game that really makes it stand out. Everything from the sounds of the guns, the dialogue, the cheesy action movie vibe and story, to the weird Zoidberg sound your character makes when he picks up a speed boost. All of this just glues together to make Total Carnage a bloody good time. If you like a challenge and have someone to take down General Akbub with, I highly recommend Total Carnage, as you will love it.
I love it!
Our hero's car has crashed on Planet Golf, and he has to get another one so he can keep his blind date. Dispose of the hostile natives before they run Bob out of town. Use your wit and Bob's firepower to get out of Dodge and onward to the date. Begin with 3 lives, a single shotgun, and a trampoline remote, and make it to the swirling orange teleporter. Along the way, Bob must deal with a slew of enemies and obstacles. Be prepared to encounter some strange creatures in Bob from Electronic Arts.
Hidden behind one of the most boring sounding titles is this absolute gem. I gotta say, Bob or Bob hosts some of the funniest and imaginatively detailed sprite animations that you will ever see on the SNES. These little details blend perfectly with the goofiness of the game, as the game's aesthetic and humour all really do play out like a 90s cartoon. I think the only other game I could compare Bob's smartly implemented animations to is Earthworm Jim, which is no bad comparison at all. The game is a pretty standard action platformer, but is enhanced by a solid story, a varied arsenal, and some fun abilities that help you traverse the maze-like levels. The enemies are also nicely detailed, and the bosses are a true standout. But I honestly just think the reason this game has stuck in my head all these years is just how lovable the character of Bob is. The developers really crammed so much personality into this weird robot ant hybrid thing that it's honestly hard not to feel sad every time he bites the dust. Also, this game is one of the few SNES titles that won't break the bank to pick up. So what are you waiting for?
Transform yourself into 5 truly cool characters with awesome abilities. Claymates.
Coming from the same team that cursed the world with Clay Fighter is Claymates, another clay-infused title, but instead of being a fighting game, this one is a platformer, and instead of being terrible, this one is an extremely fun and charming good time. The gameplay is split up into 2 sections, with a core platforming gameplay focused on you using your special clay shape-shifting abilities to transform into various animals that each have their own unique powers you will need to use to progress and move on. The other half of the game involves the hub world, which normally is just used to move on to the next world. But in this game, the overworld plays out like a mini puzzle game where you must shift around obstacles and mini robots to clear a way so you can move on to the next level. It's simple enough, but it's a nice diversion that keeps the gameplay always feeling fresh. If you're a big fan of games like Kirby, you'll probably get a kick out of this one. It has a ton of personality, and the clay-based art style really does help the game to stand out visually.
This week on the Threshers Roundtable, our panel of daredevils discusses uni races. Only for Super NES.
It's like single wheel boarding. Down the track, double roll, fly!
How did you find the 2-player action?
Man, I was hauling, gaining on the bro. Hit the ice, smack, flip city. Ace the dude's time. Glue action, triple flip, bacon in the pan.
Well, it appears then to be totally slamming. Next week, doing triple flips without tossing your crumpets. Good night.
I'm not really sure what the developers were smoking when they thought, hey, let's make a game where you race unicycles. But I'm sure glad they did, as Uni Rally is frickin' awesome, and an absolute blast to play, and hidden behind the quite steep learning curve is honestly one of the most unique races on the SNES, not only for its core concept of racing unicycles, but also its unique gameplay mechanics that were well ahead of its time. But I will warn you, this game is hard to master, as you not only have to perfect your stunts for boosts and points, but you also have to pay attention to the different colours of track, as they will highlight what's coming up next. Seems simple enough on paper, but the game is also ridiculously fast, so focus, timing, reflexes, and intelligence are the key to winning races. All that being said though, once you master these mechanics, you will have an absolute blast with the game, especially when racing your mates. The game's rocking soundtrack also adds to the game's unique vibe and outlandish premise, and just cements this game as a must-have for anyone who loves a bit of 16-bit multiplayer. Lastly, I'm just going to add another Power Rangers game into the mix. Why? Because I can. And also because Power Rangers Fighting Edition is a damn fine Street Fighter clone that just doesn't get enough praise. The game is super fun, it's mechanically deep with a ton to master, and you get to fight giant robots against giant monsters. Honestly, what more could you want from a game? The game also controls really smoothly, the art and colour here really do pop, especially when you unleash one of your many screen filling super moves into your helpless foes. If you don't like Power Rangers, but still like Street Fighter or Turtles Tournament Fighters, this game is worth your time. But if you love Power Rangers and missed out on this, well, all I gotta say is it's morphin' time. And that's all I've got for you today. I'm off to the pub. What obscure games do you recommend I go out and try? Let me know down in the comments below, and until next time, you guys stay tipsy.
Oh, you're playing with power, superpower.